Meantime, economists now beginning to sound the alarm bells that the shutdown could soon start doing very serious damage to the economy. According to the bean counters on Wall Street, this whole mess could push the nation's first quarter growth close to or even below zero. That's not good. The National Association of Realtors claims 25% of its members say the shutdown is dissuading clients from buying homes. Businesses that can't meet with government regulators are at a standstill. And, of course, there's the 800,000 federal workers who aren't getting paid, and they're not putting money into the economy right now. The list goes on and on. Even the president's former economic advisor, Gary Cohn, said the shutdown is, quote, completely wrong and, quote, makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So will this be enough to get both sides to come to the table and compromise? Let's go to tonight's panel. It's Ladies' Night. She's a correspondent for the Greg Gutfeld Show, and a National Review online reporter, Katherine Timpf, is here, along with National Taxpayers Union Senior Fellow and Center for a Free Economy Board member, Mattie Duppler, and from Fox Business Network, Kristina Partsinevelos. Welcome, everyone.
Yay.
There's so much business, and business might be good. So what do you think about the notion that the shutdown is having short-term economic impact and possibly long-term as well?
Oh, definitely. We're starting to see it. And I think for a long time you saw a lot of investors think, hey, it's a shutdown, it's politics. We don't really care. We just care about the earnings that are coming out for a lot of these companies. It is affecting it. The White House came out just this week saying that it's actually going to be double what they expected in terms of loss per week. So you have this situation. You have 800,000 employees. However, it begs the question of how many of those employees are actually essential now, because you have so many that are non-essential. Did we need them in the first place? So is there some rejigging that we could do with these employees? And they're not legally allowed to strike, too. So the only option they do have is to call out sick, when you were talking about that before.
Yeah.
Which I think is fascinating. But just this whole situation just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. And this piece by piece, like let's reopen the Federal Farm Bureau, let's reopen the bureau that deals with the energy and oil gas leases. That's going to extend the shutdown even more when you start to break it down like that.
Oh, it's crazy. So what's the way out?
What is the way out? That is the question everyone in Washington, D.C. is asking. And Tim raised a good point earlier. You know, some of these folks, maybe they're Ubering, trying to take on part-time jobs. That ignores the fact that most of these folks aren't allowed to do that. There are very strict laws that govern what federal employees can and cannot do. So, for an example, IRS is shut down right now. Someone can't go get a part-time job as a tax preparer because that's a conflict of interest. So these guys are really in a tough situation.
But could they get a job as a TaskRabbit?
They probably could, but, you know, there's the other question of unemployment benefits. We saw a huge uptick in federal workers taking those the last week of December, but to gain unemployment benefits, you have to prove you're looking for a job, and a lot of these workers are saying, I have a job, I'm not looking for a job, I'm just trying to get paid.
I'll lose my pension.
In the meantime, they're trying to put food on the table for their family.
And there are a lot of private organizations that are providing food and
craft.
And acting as food banks for families in need.
Yeah.
And God bless them, but, you know, I mean, there's always the other side of it. And Kristina kind of brings this up, like, do we really need these 800,000?
But it's unfortunate, because then you sound insensitive, right? I don't want to mention that on air because you have so many people.
You're talking to a libertarian audience.
I know, but at the same time,
deal in insensitivity.
These people, they are struggling. And yeah, they're struggling. And to your point, too, that I heard one guy that's a paramedic on the side now, just because it's discouraging people actually to
become. And that person is David Lee Roth. What do you make of all this?
What I make of all this, I think that it's going nowhere fast because nobody's really looking for a solution, right? There's one side that's trying to say no wall ever, and I'm going to show my base no wall ever, and then one side saying yes walls forever, walls are number one, we're going to build the wall.
So many walls.
And it's all that people want to talk about. I mean, we don't even need this wall, which is what makes me so crazy in the head, is most people who get here illegally, they get here by overstaying visas, not by walking over the border, and the undocumented population has actually been dropping. There's not this huge influx, it's not going up, there's not this big crisis at the border.
But when it does go up, that means that we have a healthy economy.
Right.
And there's always a correlation between the number of people who are trying to get into the country and the number of jobs there are here. There aren't a lot of jobs because unemployment has been so low, which is great, but businesses are booming. And
businesses are looking for workers to hire.
Yeah,
that's the biggest problem we have right now.
Which is exactly a good argument to bring in good quality immigrants that would fill those roles. Over 7 million job openings. So then we're not doing it.
We have agreement at the table.
There you go.
You know what the problem is? It's Canada.
No, you can't blame Canada. We're not on South Park.
That's the last decade.
Exactly. Thank Thank you. Thank
Retro.
you.
Much more with the panel. Thank goodness. But first up, the president's former lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, now claiming the president paid him to rig polls before the 2016 campaign. Trump's current lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, man I know well, says Cohen is full of it and denies Trump had any knowledge of such a scheme. Who are we supposed to believe? I will ask Sebastian Gorka. There he is. Lovely tie. He's next. Hillary Clinton is still chiming in on the likability issue. Here she is just last week. What happened?
There's been a lot of talk recently about whether our country is ready for women leaders. Now that really takes me back, but today I want to thank all of you for your persistence. I know many of you and can attest as to how smart, determined, effective, and dare I say, likable you all are.
Can't even see the back brace from that angle. So with Hillary still squawking about likability, are the other ladies in this pack doomed? Tonight's ladies' night, and everyone is back. Kat, Mattie, and Kristina. Kat, I will start with you because obviously there is something to overcome because we have not yet had a female president. We almost did in 2016, but here we are.
Right, absolutely. There is definitely something to overcome. I do think it's more difficult for a woman to run for political office than it is for a man. I think that sexism is a very real thing in this country. However, to say that likability is only an issue that female politicians or aspiring politicians have to face is absolutely ridiculous. It's something that all politicians have to face. That's why Mitt Romney lost for tying a dog to his car, even though Obama ate dogs. It was because Obama was way more likable. I would rather hang out with Obama than Mitt Romney.
No, that's totally true. Obama, a likable guy.
Yeah.
A garbage presidency, but a very likable person. But that's what likability gets you.
Yeah.
And that's what people love Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders.
I don't quite understand, to be honest with you. Maybe it's because I live in Washington, D.C., so I hang out with enough, like, weird old white men, but, like, I don't get the likability thing.
Like a fetish?
I'd love to have a mimosa with Bernie.
Absolutely.
But the weird thing about American politics is that, like, each party spends 15 months pretending that they don't have another team to beat and instead spend all that time beating up on each other. And that's a problem for Democrats right now, right? They need someone who's likable, but really they need someone who can beat Trump.
Yes.
At the end of the day, that is exactly what they're trying to do. The question is, how do they do that if they elect someone who is a like left-wing progressivite to the most degree? That's not very relatable and thus likable for the middle of the country that traditionally was very reliable for Democrats.
Yeah, and with someone like Beto O'Rourke or someone more progressive, even if they are likable, they're going to get to the very end, and then that's the moment where people will look at their own hearts and their polling place and be like, how the hell are we going to pay for all this stuff?
Right, but if we look at the costs and the deficits thus far, then you look at, conservatives normally aren't the spenders, and they've been the spenders for quite some time. But to your point...
Actually, Mercatus has shown that when Republicans have a hat trick, they spend more than Democrats.
Yeah, so I guess we can't even say that anymore, that, we're fiscally conservative. That's
they pay lip service to it like Paul Ryan, but talk about inauthenticity.
Right.
That was a load of malarkey.
But I think authenticity, actually, sorry to introduce Kristina, but like authenticity actually is going to be the important part for Democrats, less so than likability.
I agree completely.
People can get behind whatever weird facet of personality they have if they think you're authentic. That's why Beto has a groundswell of support. That's why AOC is popular, and that will be something that Democrats really try to, I don't want to say exploit, but definitely explore.
I think definitely they're focusing on that. AOC or Ocasio-Cortez is showing something that no one else has, and that's being connecting to the younger demographics. However, if you look at the midterm elections, it was the moderates, it was the female Republicans that may have switched and been unhappy with President Trump that decided to vote. So you can't really say that we're going all the way to the left because the core still is really, really relevant, and you see that with Beto O'Rourke.
I'm gonna talk about Maxine Waters and AOC on the Financial Services Committee, but it goes to show: do you want someone who's going to out-Trump Trump, or do you want someone who's going to beat him by being the kind of person that you want to hang out and do tequila shots with.
Yeah, that makes more of a difference than it should, but it does make a huge difference. It does make a huge difference.
I don't want to drink with them. I want to stay far away from them.
No,
I want to drink with you guys. I don't
want?
want to drink with them.
Done and done. However, I want the presidency to be less powerful. I want it to be less meaningful.
Less cult of personality, more Article 1 restoration, so that you've got 500 some people fighting.
What do we talk about then? What are TV people going to talk about?
We're going to go to tequila shots, and we'll let the actually run the government.
We're going to be slurring. You know, they have drunk history. Maybe we need drunk politics.
Hey.
Oh, so down.
Kristina, Mattie, and Kat, thank you. All right, California Congresswoman Maxine Waters spent the past 2 years writing impeachment fan fiction. But now she's the head of the very powerful Financial Services Committee, and she's pledging to, quote, undo the damage of President Trump's regulation rollbacks.